Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla and let's go over what has happened and what we can expect moving forward for the rest of the week. Again, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. And again, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Make your own decisions, do your own research. And I have my membership section live, $2.99 a month. And you essentially get all my intraday thoughts on Tesla as it moves pretty much live. But with all that being said, the link is down below. With all that being said, let's move into it. Market closing in about 7 minutes. And Tesla, once again, another green day for Tesla. At this rate, it just feels like just another day for Tesla, right? But with that being said, Tesla closing, well, look like it will be closing about 3.5%, which will be putting us at almost $260 per share compared to the market. A very nice and respectable outperformance. Now, what does this all mean? Are the bulls still completely in control? I mean, yes, of course they are, right? There's no question about it. The bulls are in control. Even if we get a pullback, the bulls are still absolutely in control. The bears have absolutely been getting destroyed. Like, I would not want to be a bear short in this thing. I'll tell you that right now. This is why I always say I rarely short Tesla, because once it gets going, my goodness, there's no stopping this thing. But let's go over two major aspects, right? We're going to go over the bullish side, what the bulls want to happen for Tesla to, believe it or not, go even higher from here, pretty much, potentially even this week. And on the flip side, I'll show you guys what the bears want to see, and then I'll also give a much more broader time frame of this will be more of like a for fun thing I'll talk about, but it'll be a pretty bearish take. But again, it's just something to consider, and I actually don't think it'll even happen, but it's just, I think, something interesting to consider regardless. But moving into it, let's talk about the bullish aspect first, right? What do the bulls want to see? So first and foremost, the way today played out is as follows, right? We talked about yesterday how, we are kind of wedged in between this kind of 250-ish level to, pretty much bouncing more or less off this trend line, right? That's essentially what we said yesterday, and it'll come down to CPI today. CPI came out pretty much slightly better than expected, actually, but the core CPI was pretty much just exactly in line. So still showing that core CPI is a little sticky. However, it wasn't anything too completely surprising, or it wasn't anything too bad, really. And as usual, the market is, of course, pumping on it, right? Tesla opened the day up, of course, up all the way at what was it over here, I believe, right around 253 or so, opened the day. And then, of course, it came back and retested the previous resistance, which was this 250 to 252-ish level, and these two candles right here, and bounced off of it. I'm a little bit sad because I actually had a buy order for shares at 250 and a half. I was hoping it'll get like a true retest. It actually retested a little prematurely, but I was trying to be safe about it because this is dangerous territory, in my opinion, to go long. But regardless, unfortunately, it didn't fill, so I missed this run up, which is, it is what it is. But regardless, let's talk about what the bulls want to see to move forward from here, right? So, by the way, if this happens, I think the next target for the bulls will actually be like $285 if what I say next plays out. So first and foremost, the bulls absolutely want to see this high today break, right? You can see we're actually approaching a pretty major resistance, pretty much at exactly 260, a little bit of a psychological level. But the most important thing to understand is the fact that, like I said before, we are, of course, at or very close rather to this gap fill of 265. Now, importantly, we did discuss how, like I said, everyone's eyeballs are probably on this gap fill right now, right? Similar to back when we were talking about this gap fill all the way down here at 145 or 144, whatever, right? We talked about pretty much right when we were over here. I said how, now that we're pretty close, we kind of entered the territory of gap filling it, but now that everyone's eyeballs are on this gap fill to go long, to, do this, to that, do whatever. Because everyone's eyeballing it, there's a chance that it actually doesn't gap fill to that exact level. In other words, pretty much exactly to 144. It kind of gap fills like slightly prematurely, which is essentially what happened, right? And this happens pretty often when everyone is starting to pay attention to it. And I think the same thing might actually happen right here, right? I do think that because everyone's eyeballs are on this, we're going to somewhat prematurely gap fill, which is exactly what we're doing right now. We're technically in that gap range now, but to me, a true gap fill is really touching whatever price we left behind. In this case, pretty much 265, almost on the dots, right? And same here, 144 and a half or whatever it was, right? That to me is a true gap fill. And I think something like this, where we kind of went into it, but kind of only halfway filled it, will happen right here. And that's kind of where we are at right now. However, with that being said, the bulls absolutely want to see pretty much not only this gap fill, but they want to see it go even further above that, right? Very important that the bulls break above 265. If the bulls somehow break above 265 and still get this thing going, just a true fright train, just completely skyrocketing out of control. If the bulls do go past 265, however, I do think the next major level is going to be the retest of the absolutely major downtrend level, the most important, arguably major downtrend level, which is this red line right here. As you can see, 1, 2, 3 touch points. And the next level of the touch point, if it does pretty soon, will be pretty much almost $290. So 285 to 290 will be the next target for the bulls if they break above 265. 260 to 265 will be, in my opinion, the major level to watch for the bulls to break above, and for the bears, of course, to defend. And again, if they get above it, I think about 285 is the next target to retest this. If it does get there though, this RSI might actually beat even this RSI's highest level ever. And you know, I mean, we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to say the least. Now, with that being said, let's talk about a bit more of the bearish side. Now, what do the bears want to see, right? How do the bears finally get control out of this? Because they've completely lost their grip on Tesla and really just the market in general, especially like NVIDIA and whatnot, right? Even like SPY, QQQ just completely skyrocketing out of control as well, right? The whole market is really pumping. I'll talk about something interesting on QQQ pretty soon, by the way. But what do the bears want to do here, right? The bears, first and foremost, they pretty much, the easiest way to think about it is they want to get it back under 250. That's the most important thing the bears want to do. They really want this thing back under 250 as soon as humanly possible, because not only will that be, you know, showing that this potentially was a bit of a fake breakout, it'll also do that premature gap fill I just talked about. That also happened back at the 145 level, or in other words 150, where it prematurely filled roughly, right? But on top of that, they'll get Tesla back into this channel. And then I think from there, it'll potentially get a small little bounce. So I think what will happen, something like this, right? It'll come down to this channel, get a small little bounce, similar to where we had the bounce over here, which lines up to the bottom of the channel, probably come back up, retest this level once again, maybe set a small inverted or head and shoulders pattern. And then I think from there, we'll come down and get a gap fill over here. And then we'll see what happens. This is where it'll get interesting. Either we get a nice bounce from here, which is a possibility with how much strength Tesla is showing. I know people were saying how like, oh, you keep increasing the level of, you know, where you think Tesla will draw down. Well, you kind of have to. I mean, if Tesla's showing this absolutely ridiculous strength, naturally the drawdown is going to be less, or like the correction or the cool down will be less severe because of the strength it's showing. That's just how it works, right? So this will be the first major level I'll be paying attention to. However, if it does gap fill this and actually just goes below, that's when I think the actual true cool off period will start. And I'll tell you where I think that will go down. I mean, those levels are actually still pretty similar to what I said before, right? Where essentially what you want to do is essentially go in the daily, take the Fibonacci, of course, from the swing low to the swing high. Again, just all assuming this is the top. I mean, like I said several times, until Tesla shows a very obvious bearish daily candle, who knows if this is the top? Nothing is showing that this is the top yet. In all honesty, this candle right here is not bearish at all. I mean, you can maybe say it's a slight exhaustion candle, but like, again, nothing I would put my money on, that's for sure, right? Absolutely not entering any shorts or any puts on Tesla until it's just the most obvious bearish candle ever. If I miss it, that's fine. I'm ready to buy the dip regardless. But assuming for now, again, theoretical purposes, this is the top right here, pretty much 260 on the dot. I think Tesla will draw down somewhere between 219 to 206, right? Somewhere around this 0.382 to 0.5 level, and anywhere in between, you know, the 215s, you know, 210s, something like that, give or take, like that range, in my opinion, would be the best area to potentially buy the dip, right? That's the way I personally look at it right now. And that's pretty much what the bears want to see. The bears really want to break down below 250 and also break down out of this channel. That'd be very, very crucial and very, very important, right? So we'll see how that plays out, right? That's kind of what the bears want to do. Now, one thing to know that's interesting is the fact that on the 1 hour, which is one of my personal favorite time frames, even though Tesla has been completely skyrocketing up, this really hasn't been moving too much to the upside. It's kind of been going sideways, really, right? Showing that, you know, I mean, in theory, momentum is falling off, but clearly the price of Tesla is not showing that whatsoever. But what is interesting is the fact that the RSI in the 1 hour is getting tight. Like the range is getting a little bit tighter and tighter and tighter. Like it's the zigzagging of it is getting less severe and less severe and less severe, right? So I think we're getting pretty close to a pretty major inflection point, and I think a pretty major move. And this isn't the major move I was talking about yesterday. I think an actual major move is on its way, which will either bring it down severely or potentially break above this and come all the way up to that 285-ish level. One of those two is coming. The question is which one breaks first, which level breaks first. Does 265 break first, or do we pretty much break below like 250 and especially like, you know, 240 to 235, right? Which level breaks first? Whichever one snaps, that's the direction we're going for that next big move. And of course, fittingly enough, this is a major week. We had CPI today. We have FOMC rate announcement tomorrow. We have the FOMC meeting itself tomorrow. I believe JPOW is speaking tomorrow. His interview as usual. And Thursday we have PPI. So a pretty, you know, packed week, of course. So, you know, it's a very, very good week for this kind of situation to build up and a lot of momentum to kind of build up and, you know, the real next major move to pretty much get ready to happen, in my opinion. Now, I also want to talk about quickly QQQ before I talk about the super bearish take, which is just for fun to talk about, right? QQQ, let's talk about it. So first and foremost, the daily closure on QQQ, honestly, a pretty bearish looking candle. This is an absolutely just hardcore doji looking candle, right? This is extremely doji. I mean, in case you guys forgot, I'll show you one more time what a doji candle looks like you can see right here, we have a dragonfly doji, right? That's exactly like, this is like pretty much like, man, you can pretty much rip this off and throw it in some textbook and teach people about it. This is like absolutely just literally perfection of a dragonfly doji candle, which again, usually is a sign of reversal. Doesn't mean it has to be. Like this one right here, also a sign of a reversal, but clearly we're skyrocketing. Of course, there's a lot of time in the week still for this to change, but you know, you always want to take it with a grain of salt. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but it is technically a bearish candle. So just, you know, take it for what it is for now. But the thing I want to talk about more specifically on QQQ is the fact that, you know, we are potentially on the weekly here, or even daily, it doesn't matter, right? We are potentially setting up what could be a cup and handle pattern, right? Where, you know, once QQQ potentially gets to maybe even a little bit higher, maybe like close to 370s, potentially setting up a cup and handle pattern that's going to look something like this, right? Boom. And then we, of course, have the handle that forms something like this. Maybe we come down to like 330, maybe even 320s, right? Kind of zigzag through it, right? So do something like this or whatever. And then we break right out of it, right? And this could be that little drawdown that Tesla might also have down to what I said, around 215, maybe ish, give or take, right? 220, 215, maybe even like 205, right? And this could be what brings Tesla there as well, as we get this cool off period for the market. And then of course, I think we'll rip even higher, right? So absolutely real possibility. And it looks pretty textbook as well of a potential cup and handle pattern, potentially setting up on the QQQ, something that is worth noting. And the final thing I'll very quickly point out on Tesla is, and again, this is pretty bearish, and I actually don't think this will even happen, but more of just kind of, you know, for fun to think about. If you take from the weekly chart, from the all-time highs to the somewhat recent all-time, not all-time lows, but lows, right, which was that 102-ish level, 103, whatever, you can see we are pretty much dead smack right on the 0.5 level of the Fibonacci, which is pretty much $260 per share. And so far, I mean, you know, we are getting a slight rejection, but nothing meaningful just yet. But, you know, that is a pretty damn important level to point out, which is essentially the level I talked about in my membership section in the middle of the day, right? Very crucial level to talk about, or to pay attention to. So we'll see how this plays out, right? And on top of that, and this is where it gets really bearish. Again, don't think this will happen. I know people might start freaking out and being very mean in the comments, but something just to, you know, for fun to think about is potentially this absolutely astronomical bear flag, right? Again, don't think it'll happen. Don't think this is actually what's going to happen. But, you know, it's something just interesting to consider, right? What if this is just a massive bear flag being played out right here, right now, right? From here, massive fall, from the all-time highs to here, massive fall. Now we're setting up a bear flag, and then we fall down from there and potentially go down to like 60s. I don't think it'll happen. The only way that'll happen is if something in the economy itself, just like the world economy, something in the, like pretty much literally like China would have to invade Taiwan and just complete chaos ensues around the world, and it would just be horrible, right? Because this wouldn't be just Tesla falling. This would be like the market quite literally completely and utterly crashes. Will it happen? Who knows? I don't think it will, but just something for fun I thought I would point out just as a consideration, right? Again, don't think it'll happen. The chances of that are exceptionally low. But sometimes, you know, when things are, you know, what you least expect, sometimes that might happen. I don't know. Anyway, just something I thought I'd point out for fun. Again, I don't think that'll happen. I know people are going to start freaking out and being very mean, but just thought I'd point that out for fun. Just something I was observing when I was just charting and, you know, looking at weeklies, looking at all these different perspectives. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of information in this video. I tried making it shorter, but there was just too much to cover, too much in my mind that I wanted to kind of bring out. Hopefully you guys appreciate that. But regardless, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for another pretty major day. So yeah, peace.